Guess who's back? Yes, it's me. Today I'm here to tell you all about budgeting. What would you do with $100? Share it, save it, invest it, spend it? Let's put that question into perspective. Your generation spends $200 billion per year. So whether you have 100 or 100,000 of those billions, you need to have a plan for how you're going to use that money. A budget is a plan for your money. You plan how you will spend, share, invest, and save your money. A budget will help you reach your financial goals and help you understand how you're using your money so that you can track your behaviors and make any adjustments needed to reach your goals. Today, we will discuss everything pertaining to that. We will also discuss taxes and different factors that may influence how you spend money. Let's start by exploring goals for a moment. Each goal has a different lifespan and timeline. For example, a short-term goal would take a few weeks to a few months to complete. An example of this is saving $25 by the 15th of next month for a band that you've been waiting to see. An intermediate term goal takes a little longer. It's any goal that will take a few months up to a year to complete. An example of an intermediate term goal is saving $10 per week for the next 6 months. How much would you have saved at $10 per week for the next 6 months? If you said $240, you're good at doing mental math or you used your phone. And you're also correct. And lastly, let's take a look at how long a long-term goal is. A long-term goal takes more than a year. It can be several years before we reach our long-term goals. An example of a long-term goal is to earn and save $2,000 per summer for 3 consecutive summers to buy a car. So to recap, short-term goals are 0 to 3 months, intermediate-term goals are 3 to 12 months, and long-term goals take 12 to 36 months. Once you get good at setting and completing goals, then you can level up your goal-setting powers and begin to set goals that take even longer. Now that we've gone over basic timelines, you can make SMART goals. SMART is an acronym to make and create goals in a smart way so that it increases the chances of successfully accomplishing your goals. The S stands for specific. This means that your goal is clear, concise, and identifies exactly what you want to accomplish. The M stands for measurable, making sure your goals follow a timeline that you can keep track of. The A stands for achievable. You can plan big, but take baby steps. Remember that the best things in life take time. What do you think the R stands for? The R stands for realistic. A good goal will stretch you and encourage you to become more than you ever have been before, but you also have to stay grounded. Your confidence and whether or not you have the resources needed will be factors in determining what is or isn't realistic. Finally, the T. The T stands for timely. Remember that every goal needs to be quantified as either a short, intermediate, or long-term goal. A goal without a timeline is just a dream. Let's take a look at some examples of SMART goals here. Let's say you wanted to write, produce, and record at least 4 songs for your mixtape between June and August. This goal is very specific and easy to keep yourself accountable for. Now, what if you said you wanted to record your entire mixtape this summer? That goal isn't very specific, so it will be tricky to keep track of. Although there is a deadline, it's not appropriate for the size of the project. The next and last step towards completing a goal is to create a plan which examines your options, weighs the pros and cons, and assesses the opportunity cost. Who remembers from lesson 1 what an opportunity cost is? Right, an opportunity cost is the benefits you could have received by taking an alternative action. Over time, we are able to evaluate our results, make different decisions, and choose new courses of action. Now that we've covered goals, let's get back to budgeting. What makes it so difficult to budget? When it comes to budgeting, only 49.4% of you actually discuss budgeting at home. And 70% of you don't budget at all, let alone discuss it. That means if there are 30 students in your classroom right now, only 9 of those students actually budget. Yet 80% of you claim to think that it's important to make a lot of money in your lifetime. How does that add up? Can we achieve this by not budgeting? Even the biggest millionaires and billionaires have to budget their money. Kanye. Budgeting your money is not just about making money, it's also about keeping it. Before we further examine budgeting, I have a couple of questions for you all. How many of you have a job or some form of income? Do you always receive your check in full? Probably not. Due to taxes, you will not likely receive your check in full. Having taxes withheld from each paycheck is a way to help workers set aside funds at regular intervals, so that they don't have to come up with a large sum of money when tax filings are due each year in April. When you start a new job, a piece of paperwork that you have to fill out is an IRS Employee Withholding Allowance Certificate, also known as a W-4. This form allows you to claim withholdings from your gross pay throughout the year. When you file taxes in April, you will use your W-2 forms, which will be given to you from past employers you had in the year. W-4 forms are given to you to sign when you first start with a job, and W-2 forms are used each year when you file your taxes. When you pay taxes, it goes into 3 buckets. The first is our federal income tax bucket. This money is used for things such as our schools, our roadways, and our homes. The second tax bucket is our Social Security tax. These taxes go towards covering the basic retirement needs of the elderly. It is a supplemental form of income during retirement. And tax bucket number 3 is our Medicare tax. This tax goes towards healthcare costs for those who are 65 years of age and older, or those who have a severe disability. There's also a state income tax in 43 of our 50 states. If you live in one of the 7 states that does not have an income tax, then you do not have an additional tax on your income from your state's government. Don't forget, money is a limited resource, and you will be paying taxes for the rest of your life. Welcome to adulting, kids. You pay taxes on the income that you earn, and you also pay a sales tax on the money that you spend. Now that we've explored taxes, let's explore the thing that gets taxed, your income. Does anyone know what a gross income is? I'll give you a hint. It's not dirty money. Gross income is your income before tax deductions. Now, can anyone tell me what net income is? Net income is your income after tax deductions. Examples of income include an allowance, money you earn from working a job, and any financial aid you may receive. Now, what is an expense? It's any money that you have going out. There are 3 different types of expenses, which include fixed, variable, and periodic. What do these mean? Well, a fixed expense is an expense that shows up each and every month without fluctuating. Can you think of some examples of a fixed expense? Examples would be a car payment, mortgage, or rent. A variable expense is an expense that shows up each month, but its cost will fluctuate from time to time. Can you think of an example of a variable expense? Our electric bill, groceries, and water bill are examples of variable expenses. And lastly, periodic expenses. These are expenses that are not paid on a regular monthly basis. Periodic expenses appear randomly. Can anyone think of some examples of a periodic expense? Some examples include vacations, doctor's visits, and birthday gifts. How many of you would appreciate having a brand new car? Me too. What about a Mercedes, for example? Hey! How many of you think this is affordable? Let's do the math. Pretend that each of you works 40 hours a week at $10 an hour. That's almost $1,600 per month. Is the Mercedes within that budget? Let's take a closer look. The most standard and least expensive asking price is about $29,000. Aside from the down payment, if you choose to lease this vehicle, it would only cost you about $355 a month. Whereas if you choose to finance this vehicle, it will cost you a bit more. But your monthly income still covers the cost, right? Wrong. There are some things that you probably aren't considering. There are many other costs associated with owning a car. We must take the FIRM factor into consideration. FIRM stands for fuel, insurance, repairs, and maintenance. I know you guys love your acronyms. Including the FIRM costs, you will likely be paying a lot more than just the initial $355 a month. Now we can finally move into examining a sample budget. This is a zero-based budget. And what that means is that every dollar must be accounted for, so that all of your income should match all of your expenses. You will notice how it displays a breakdown of money earned and spent during this specific time period. You can also see that the time period for this budget is monthly. Notice how Jessica first lists out all income, then follows with her expenses. Her expenses are broken down into two categories, fixed and variable. When it comes to your expenses, you want to make sure you always pay yourself first. Paying yourself first is when you set money aside for savings before you spend money on any needs or wants. Zero-based budgeting also requires that you prepare a new budget for each month, without reference to the past. It's okay to adjust your budget over time, just as your expenses may change from month to month. Let's take a look at how well Jessica is budgeting in month number 2. We see that her variable expenses shifted a little bit, but still, her monthly expenses total $575. Who remembers how much her monthly income was? Her monthly income was $575, and since her expenses didn't outweigh her income, she budgeted correctly. She properly allocated her money into categories and made a plan of how she would spend her money. Plus, she has money to put away into her savings. When you budget your money, you are allocating certain amounts of money towards categories of expenses. So you will end up with 100% of your money being used for something, reflecting a balanced budget. If you spend less than what you've allocated, then you will be under budget. If you spend over what you've allocated, then you will be over budget. Stay under budget. This will help you meet your needs and control your spending. One of the most important practices of budgeting is preparing for emergencies, meaning how to budget for the unexpected curveballs life may throw at us. Emergency funds should be a minimum of $1,000. Begin a savings plan based on 6 to 12 months of living expenses. This is the amount of money needed for survival in the event that you may lose your source of income. An easy way to figure this number is to total your needs expenses for 1 month and multiply that number by 6. Did you know there's a tool within many online banking sites that help you monitor your spending? If you have an open bank account, explore the available online banking tools. Looking at any graph they provide will give you a good indication of how you're spending your money. Now that we've discussed goals and budgeting thoroughly, it's time to move on to our needs versus wants. What is a need? If I say that I need something in order to survive, what might that be? Food, clothing, and shelter. These are my basic essentials. What is a want? What are some examples of wants? Things such as high-end clothing, dining out, or the newest in technology. These are desires. Things that I'd like to have but don't necessarily need in order to survive. Now, can choosing between needs and wants get tricky? Yes, it can be difficult to determine what is a need and what is a want because they are often interchangeable. For example, can I need shoes and also want shoes? Sure. Does that mean that I need the latest and most expensive brand of shoe? No way. It is a necessity to have shoes, but having the latest release of your favorite brand is a want. What about a brand new flashy car? Would it ever be okay to need and want that? Sometimes, yes. Different types of professions have different needs. For example, real estate agents that sell fancy homes and market themselves have to match what their product offers, meaning their cars may need to reflect their professional persona because they're not just selling a home, but a whole lifestyle. Is it okay to ever want things? Of course it is, as long as you properly budget and plan for them accordingly. When you start making more money, do you think you should start spending it differently? Money is a limited resource and must be spent with consideration regardless of what you earn. What do you think are some things that influence your goals, budget, and your needs and wants? Personal values are a big thing that shape your expenses. For example, sometimes those who purchase drive-thru coffee every morning might not realize how much that is taking out of their income. But they really feel it's an important part of their day, so they keep doing it. Ask yourself, what do you value so much that it shapes your expenses? There are also external factors in our surrounding environment that affect how we spend. Things such as family and friends, our current finances, how much education we have received, social causes that we believe in, the media, and whatever other personal circumstances you have going on. We're now going to explore how the media shapes our expenses through marketing and consumer advertising. First, we begin with the power of persuasion. On average, we individually view more than 5,000 plus advertisements per day. Even at the age of 2, you were being marketed to with cartoons and animals. Here are the 4 P's of marketing: product, place, price, and promotion. For example, next time you're at the grocery store, take a closer look at the placement of the children's cereal. Notice how they tend to be placed at eye level for children. Also, cigarettes constantly promote their products towards the younger generation by enticing them with flavors, celebrity endorsements, etc. When it comes to consumer advertising, it's all about trust. Marketers understand this when it comes to how likely you will be to purchase a product. Trust is built through word of mouth, online reviews in the internet, or TV and magazine ads. Companies know this, so they spend billions of dollars each year marketing. Here are a few specific marketing techniques to be aware of. Number 1 is the stealth ad, otherwise known as product placement. Have you ever seen the movie Elf? Did you notice how strategic the positioning of the Coca-Cola bottle was? Although you may not have paid attention to it at first, this is called a stealth ad or product placement. Can you think of other examples of this? Companies do this because they know how influential movies can be. So if they can influence you to purchase goods and services through films, they are more than likely going to take advantage of that. Number 2 is repetition. This is an advertising technique which marketers use so that you will constantly remember and think about their product. Who knows what commercial this is? You guessed it. Progressive Insurance. And the reason you know this is because you've probably seen it 6,000 times. Marketers use many patterns, attention getters, and jingles that influence you to purchase their product. Some examples of jingles are ba-da-ba-ba-ba, like a good neighbor, nationwide. I bet you guys could even finish those jingles for me. Branded characters and celebrity endorsements are other strategies that marketers use to lure consumers. Analysts and researchers refer to your generation as the microwave generation. This is because you're prone to wanting things and wanting them immediately to fulfill a sense of instant gratification. But that's not entirely your fault. Since a young age, various factors in your environment have created a condition to make it more likely for you to behave that way. Your generation spends 3 times more than what you earn each year. As of 2013, a family can expect to spend upwards of $245,000 on raising a child, and nearly 1.1 million family households file for bankruptcy each year. So your spending habits are a lot more relevant than you might think. Teens tend to spend most of their money on dining out and high-end clothing. I, for one, have definitely been guilty of this. Why do you think that is? Don't let this pattern of uncontrolled spending continue. Create a budget, stick to it, and be the change that you wish to see. So, to recap today's lesson, 1. Create an action plan using SMART goals. 2. Budget your money by allocating your expenses into categories. 3. Start putting money aside for an emergency fund and a savings account. 4. Assess your values and how they influence your spending habits. 5. Be conscious and aware about subliminal messaging and advertisements. Remember that no one is born financially smart. Learning the language of personal finance is the first step to becoming money smart. Let this lesson guide how you handle your finances so you can focus on your dreams and passions. Thanks, guys.